So a company makes and sells fibre optic cable. It can sell at most 200 kilometers of cable in a week. For a certain range of its production, the company has found that profit can be modeled using the function. So here we have our profit function. So this is a function we're given, and what it does is it's modeling, or it represents the amount of profit this company makes. What do we need to worry about here? The bit that's maybe a bit confusing is this here, where x is less than or equal to 200. We can almost ignore that because it doesn't actually, it's not part of the function. The function itself is just what's in the box. So that's our function. The other bit is just a condition. It's saying it can't sell any more than 200 kilometers. So if you notice, x is less than or equal to 200. So x can go up to 200, but once it goes beyond 200, it's not going to apply. Okay? So this is our function. In the function, x is the number of kilometers of fibre optic cable sold, and P of x is the profit. So P equals profit, okay, and x is the number of kilometers sold. Okay, use the profit function, P of x, so use the function we've just been given to find out how much money the company loses if it does not sell any cable. So x is the number of kilometers sold. Here, the company loses if it does not sell any cable. So doesn't sell any cable means it sells 0 cable. In other words, x equals 0. So what profit, or what's going to happen to it? It's going to have 0 wherever x is. So what we get is 0 minus 0 minus 2,000. So what it's saying is, it makes a profit of minus 2,000. In other words, it makes a loss of 2,000. So that's not too bad. Like, once you understand what it's asking, that's not a hard question. You're just putting 0 in for x. But the difficulty is working out what on earth all those words meant. Okay. In a particular week, the company made a profit of 8,350. So let's just write that down. P equals 8350. Find the number of kilometers of cable it sold that week. Now, number of kilometers of cable it sold, remember that was actually the number of kilometers of fibre optic cable sold. That's actually x. So they're asking me to find x. So what the question is saying, find x when P equals 8350. Now, let's see what happens if we put the P of x equal to 8350 and see what happens. So as soon as I do 275x minus x squared minus 2,000, and I put it equal to 8350, I have an attempt mark. So say that's a 10 mark part, I've got 4 marks for doing that. Just like as soon as I put x equals 0 and sub 0 in for x in my equation, my function, I've got an attempt mark, which is, I don't think, ever less than 40% of the marks for that part. So to do some step that's relevant will get you a pass on that part of the question. And if you get all those little passes, then you're going to pass, which is great. Okay? So we now have 275x minus x squared minus 2,000 equals, that looks nasty, except for the fact that we might spot, well, there's an x squared in there. And if there's an x squared in there, normally that means that it's a quadratic. So maybe I can rearrange this like we've been doing this week, rearrange this to make it look more like a quadratic. Well, maybe if I had my x squared first in the equation, if I then had my number of x's, if I then had my 2,000 and a equals 8350, well, that's looking a little bit better. I don't like this 8350 over here. I'd like that to be 0. So I'm going to take that away from both sides. So that I got minus x squared plus 275x minus 10,350 is equal to 0. Now let's just talk through how we got there again, because from then on in, we're kind of into minus b formula territory. Okay, but until then, let's see how we got there. So, we were told the profit was 8,350. We were also told that the profit equals 275x minus x squared minus 2,000. So, the profit and the profit, those two things must equal each other. So that's what we did. We wrote down those two things equal each other and we got some marks. Now we're rearranging it to make it look more like a quadratic, because quadratics always have x squareds, x's and zeros. So we've rearranged it. And now, I mean, I'm not even going to try and factorize that. I don't know whether Miss Delaney wants to try and factorize that, but I'm not going to try. I'm just going to use my minus b formula. So my minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So what do I have? A is minus 1, b is 275, and c is minus 10,350. So it's minus b, so it's minus 275 plus or minus the square root of 275 squared minus 4 by minus 1 by minus 10,350. Now, all over 2a. Before I go any further, I've been teaching my second years this, and I've been emphasizing to them, and I'm emphasizing to you again, once you have a quadratic equation, and you have what a, b and c are, and you sub them correctly into your formula, even after that you make a hames of it, you get lots of marks for getting to that point. So please get into the habit of showing your work, showing your quadratic formula, showing what happens, you know, where you're putting numbers in. And then let me just put that in. So I'm going to have minus 275. I'll do plus, just to make it possible. 275 squared again. I'm just saying, reminding you again to put that 275 in brackets in case it's a minus. Okay, don't know whether you can see that. 275 in brackets, minus 4 times minus 1 times minus 10350 equals divided by minus 2 equals. So actually, by putting in the plus, my first answer, the plus, it actually turns out to be 45, just without even having to write down a surd form. So that's useful. And then I'll do it again with my minus version, minus the square root. I should have just, anyway, doesn't matter. 275 squared minus 4 by minus 1 by minus 10350 equals divided by minus 2 equals 230. Now, x is equal to 230. In a particular week, the company made a profit of 8,350. Find the number of kilometers of cable it sold that week. So what I found here is that it made a profit when it sold either 45 kilometers of cable or 230 kilometers of cable, but I'm remembering there was something there about saying it can't make more than 200, so it must just be making 45. Okay, so let me just quickly double check that I've got my right answer there. There's the square root. Now it's quite normal that you'd have one of the answers not working. It just normally doesn't work because it's a negative rather than because it's too big. So let's just double check. Yeah, it seems to be that. Okay, so it's not 230, it's just 45. Now I'd imagine in an exam, if you gave both answers, I'd say they'd only take away 1 mark from you. I don't think they'd take the whole lot away. So x is 45 kilometers sold. The next bit says, the table below shows some of the data representing the profit on sales. Use the profit function to complete the table. So I'm going to use my functions here. So remember, it's mode 3 table. So mode 3, there's my function. And my function is 275x minus x squared minus 2000. equals, there's my function starting at 50 and going up to 100 and going up by 10. Okay, and there's my values. So I'll just fill those into my table. 9250. That's a 6. So just filling those in. Okay, so all I did was use my table function on my calculator, which is mode 3 on my Casio, and my inputs were between 50 and 100 going up by 10. And don't forget you use the alpha button to put in the x's. The red above the alpha is the same as the red above the bracket that has the x on it. Okay. Okay, and then over the, it's on the next page. So I'm going to have to transpose my points across. So 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So what do I have? I have 9, I have it still here, don't I? Get it from my calculator. So 50, 9250, 60, 10,900, 12,350, 13,600, 14,650, and 15,500. Okay, so then I plot those, and as long as I plot whatever points I found, even if I got them wrong, I'll get marks. So 9250, so halfway here between 9,000 and 9,500. 60, this little ziggity zaggedy line, by the way, means there's values that are not being represented, that are not shown. So that basically means we've squished up this part of the graph so that the graph can be graphed on this bit of paper. Okay, so this is, we've squished up these ones. Okay, not that that's a very mathematical way of putting it, but okay, 60 is 10,900, 70 is 12,350, right here I think, 80 is 13,600, 90 is 14,650, and 100 is 15,500. Now it looks like it's a straight line. I'm not sure. It shouldn't be a straight line because it's a quadratic function, but anyway, let's join it. I'm just going to join it freehand because I don't think it's quite a straight line. I think it's beginning to curve. And then it says, use your graph to estimate the lower and upper range of sales in order to make a profit of between 10,000 and 14,000. So I better mark those on my graph. Hi. Sure. 10,000 and 14,000.
Pretty sure color. It sounds like don't read that out.
Okay, so there's my 10,000 and there's my 14,000. It's profits of, so they were going to be on my vertical axis, on my y-axis, profits of. Okay, and of course then once I've drawn across to the curve, I need to remember to drop down to the x-axis. So, what are those values? This is about 55, isn't it? And this is what, about 83 maybe? So I'm suggesting that between 55 kilometers and 83 kilometers. Now this last bit is bringing in a bit of differentiation. Use calculus, okay, to find the number of kilometers of cable sold. So to find X when the profit is increasing at a rate of 105 euro per kilometer. So let's just write down our profit function. What was it? P is equal to 275x minus x squared minus 2000. Okay. Now this is a bit weird because this doesn't look to me like there's no mention of the word maximum there or minimum. So I can't just do dy dx and put it equal to 0. But it does say use calculus. So if I was in there and I didn't know what to do, I think I'd at least differentiate. Okay. Now, what are we going to do with that once we've differentiated? The profit is increasing. That means it's going up. And that reminds me of going up, reminds me of slope or of change, rate of change maybe. So I think maybe what they want me to do is to find dy dx anyway, because it's calculus, at a rate of 105. So that's the profit, isn't it? The P is 105. So maybe they're saying to me that if it's going up by 105 euro per kilometer, so it's going up, rising 105 euro for every kilometer it goes along. It does look like rise over run, and it does look like slope. So I think it's telling me the slope is 105. And I think I remember that dy dx was the same as slope. That's why when we have a maximum, dy dx equals 0. Okay, so I'm going to differentiate anyway. Nothing to lose by differentiating. P dash x is equal to. So it doesn't matter. If you wrote dy dx, I don't think they dock marks from you. But you do need to write down something like dy dx. Do you remember that? So P dash x is 275, minus x squared is minus 2x, and minus 2000 is gone, because it's a constant. So I've differentiated, and the slope equals P dash x. And I've explained here about where I'm getting slope from, so hopefully they've seen that and they know I know what I'm talking about. So the slope is P dash x, and the slope equals 105. So this is P dash x. Remember, that's pronounced P dash x. Well, in my classroom it is. So 275 minus 2x is equal to 105. I mean, if you can do this, you deserve Euro 1, I think, really. Because it's, it's hard. So I'm going to subtract 275 from both sides. So minus 2x is equal to minus 17. I better do that. 275. I mean, I know it's obvious. Sorry. 275 minus 105 is 170. Yeah, minus 170. And then I'm going to divide by minus 2, divide by minus 2. So x is equal to 85. So the number of kilometers sold when the profit is increasing at a rate of 105 per kilometer is 85. So, I mean, that was a nasty question. Hopefully there's places there you could have picked up some marks. Okay, hopefully there's some places there by differentiating or by drawing your graph anyway. I mean, everybody should be able to draw the graph. get the points and draw the graph. That's like, that might have been, it's, what is it, it's a 45 mark question. So let's say that might be 5, 10 for that is 15, 5 for the table is 20, maybe 10 for the graph. So you might be able to get 15 out of 45, so 33% of that question, and then read from your graph. So say you might have been able to pass the question just on doing the table and the graph. Okay, so be looking out for those chances to get marks, even if you're struggling. Okay.